Hi, this is your host, Dale Josey, and welcome to our new YouTube channel, Aging with Grace 55 Plus, Diane Gilman. Many of you will recognize my co-host from 28 years on QVC HSN, where she became the #1 fashion personality and was responsible for $100 million in retail sales per year. Without further delay, Diane, good morning. How are you?
Oh my gosh, you are so perky. I'm not sure, but I wore my colors.
I love your colors.
I'm getting into color, and I do want to say that we did a whole Instagram thing on color, and we got something like 8 times, 800% the amount of comments. So I think in dark times, color is very inspirational and very important. So I'm a Leo.
Yeah.
Yellows, oranges, sun colors. I
never
thought
I would
be doing this. But here I am. Never say never.
That's exactly it. But that's perfect colors for that. What appears to be a gloomy day in New York City.
It was sunny to begin with, but now we're expecting like some gigundo winter storm. So we're all hoping, we're praying for one snowflake. So let's see what happens. But that's life, isn't it? Sunny 1 minute.
That's exactly
gray the
right.
Next. Yep.
And the question is, how do you weather that? Sunny 1 minute, gray the next. And that's what this program is about in terms of your life. You've weathered storms, you've come through them. So before we get into your incredible backstory, Diane, what is this show about? What's your vision as my co-host for our audience?
Well, I just want to give you a little bit of background with what I did with a big chunk of my life, which was when I went into middle age and could not find a jean that fit, because that was so important to me. I was a rock and roll baby in the 60s and the 70s. I went out to find a jean. There was nothing for a chubby middle-aged body. And so I took my measurements, invented one, then brought it on air at HSN and QVC Europe International and created this mega brand. So it elevated so many women's sense of self-esteem to be back in a sexy jean. I would say this program is about everything 55 plus.
Yeah.
Information, inspiration, innovation. It's all about what we need to move and march onward at our optimum performance level in life.
I absolutely love that. And that's why it's a perfect extension of my podcast series, Aging with Grace 55 Plus, because there my mantra was, and it continues with you, Diane, as my co-host on this special edition, that as we age, some of our best teachers are experienced. As this is an attack on ageism. And I'm glad that we connected, because that's what this is about in a youth-obsessed, age-phobic, especially fashion industry. That's what we're attacking here.
Yeah, it was not only the fashion industry, but it's television too. Any visual medium becomes immediately youth obsessed. And, tele-retail was sort of the perfect place for me to age, because it was an aging audience that was very loyal and stayed with me and just grew. And obviously, I was focused on a baby boomer body and customer. But when I went through breast cancer in 2017, 18, and 19, I found when I came out and I wanted to have my hair natural and white, and I wanted to get back to me again, there was nothing out there. There were no guidelines. I mean, if you're a young girl, you've got so much visual out there, and so many stars, young stars to follow, and that's who you want to look like, and that's who you want to be. And tried to have breast cancer at 72, 73, 74. And how do you come out of it? And who is there that's someone you really admire and you want to look like them, or you want to know how they got to where they are? And guess what? Nobody in entertainment or fashion wants to talk about their age or their illness. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to make everything transparent. I'm going to work with my professionals, my hairdresser, my makeup artist, everybody I'd worked with before the
Yeah.
disease
Yeah.
was recognized. And we're going to create a new me. I'm going to
I love
rebrand
that.
myself.
I
And you
love
know
that.
what? It's actually been a lot of fun.
Well, I love that idea, and the idea that that no matter what age you are, is transformational. And for our audience, please be sure to buy Diane's book or reference her book, I should say, Too Young to Be Old. And it's a great story about how to stay vibrant, visible, and forever in blue jeans. And Diane, when you talk about the breast cancer, that's covered in here. But before we get there, there is an origin to you. In the beginning, Diane, where did this whole passion for fashion start? I understand as a little girl, you were drawing dresses for your stick figures with Crayola crayons. Is that right?
Yeah, I was drawing polka dots, and from the time I could pick up a crayon at about 3 years old, that's all I did. And back then, okay, so I was born the day after World War II ended, 1945. Well, there was no television, obviously, there was just radio. And if you wanted to think about anything fashion, they were paper dolls. I'm sure some of you remember those. So I used to get paper dolls, and then what I would do is cut up all the dresses and repatch them and put that sleeve on that and that hairdo on her. But everybody looked like a Cupid doll. And there were not many choices. So I think that you'd have to say it was my destiny. I was born to do it because honestly, there was no outside influence. I mean, you couldn't have a cell phone and look at it and say, oh, I think I'll look at Milan Fashion Week today. Yeah. It wasn't happening. So it came out of absolutely nowhere. Nobody in my family was in any artistic field at all. And I was born to a set of immigrant parents who had come over from Ukraine, Poland, Russia around 1900. And the one thing you didn't do as a girl is work.
What?
No, peasants worked. Servants worked. Well-bred young girls did not have a job. That was unheard of.
Wow. So with that said, then that would suggest, and I think a lot of women will agree with this, that your mother had a vision for what you were to be as a proper young lady. But you're saying, no, this is what I'm going to do. Because I think your mother also saw seamstressing as a very low class. Why would you waste your time, right?
Yeah, both my mother and my father were very united in what I should do, which was exactly what I was not going to do, which was go to college to simply find a husband, get married, and have a bunch of kids. Not going to happen. Yeah, my mother grew up in a mansion in Portland, Maine, with her 6 brothers, her mother and her father. And when the Depression of '29 hit, they lost everything overnight. And my mother became the chambermaid and the seamstress for the entire family. And she saw sewing as slavery. My grandmother became the cook. The mansion became a transient boarding house. My grandfather became the handyman. So that dark cloud of you better do something totally practical with your life hung over the family forever. And, I think that today you would probably be in a household where you would say, oh, I really want to be a fashion designer, or I want to be on Wall Street, or whatever it was. And they would say, okay, let's see which colleges should we put her into. But not back then. Back then it was unheard of. Totally.
Yeah.
You didn't work.
So then the question that becomes, you have this passion, which we're going to talk about, became kind of your North Star, I would say, since about the age of 5 years old, according to your book.
Yeah, 4 or 5.
And then that started taking you on your destiny to becoming this megastar, if you will, in creating DG2 denim jeans for women. That's quite an arc for 5 years old. So there's a teenage period in there. What happened? How'd you get there?
Growing up in the 50s was hardly looking at fashion revolution. And you were dressed like either the president's wife, which unfortunately at the time was Mamie Eisenhower.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that was totally horrific for me.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you weren't even allowed to, there was no such thing as a girl wearing pants to school or even wearing pants. There was no jeans. You had to go to a hardware store and get really stiff, dark indigo men's jeans. So there was a little bit of experimentation there, but honestly, I remember going to school one day and they were outraged and they made me get on my knees. This was what they did with everybody. And if your skirt didn't touch the ground, you had to walk all the way home, change to a proper girl skirt, and walk back to school again.
Oh, no.
When the 60s hit and I went to UCLA, I started UCLA fall of 1963. I mean, that was like fashion revolution. And then very crazy, one day, you don't even know this, Dale, one day, some guy at UCLA who I'd seen walked up to me and said, "Hey, you want to go to London?" Well, I mean, everything fashion was happening in London. It was Carnaby Street. It was unbelievable, outrageous fashion at Biba. I said, "What?" And he said, "Yeah, my girlfriend split on me. I've got this ticket. I can't cash it in. It's non-refundable." So I got a free ticket to London and I skipped out of my second semester. By this time, my parents were like really having a fit. And I went and lived the Carnaby Street life for 6 months.
And
it was amazing.
What years was this, Diane?
That was the end of 1963, the beginning of 1964. And then I got back into UCLA again, but I lived the fashion life. I mean, and the Rolling Stones were so strong, so were the Beatles. And so those two groups were sort of the fashion monikers and ruled London. And I became really immersed in fashion and loved it so much.
Well, we're going to come back and we're going to pick it up right there. But for our audience, I hope you're enjoying Aging with Grace 55 Plus, Diane Gilman. Diane is my co-host for this series, and you will recognize her from 28 years on QVC, HSN, where the #1 fashion personality was responsible for $100 million in retail sales per year. She's got a story that's applicable to everyone. That's why we're doing this. This is not just about a star, but this is about you, our audience. And you can find more of the story and information in Diane's book, Too Young to Be Old, How to Stay Vibrant, Visible, and Forever in Blue Jeans, which can be purchased on Amazon. So we're in 1960s. It's rock and roll. You're in London. So how did that affect your design on fashion?
I think it just made the sophistication level for me and the possibilities went way up, because the whole fashion thing with Biba Department Store and Mary Quant, and you can actually see a lot of that in that fabulous movie about Freddie Mercury and Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody. That was the era that I was in London. I think it gave me a level of excitement for what fashion could do for the psyche and for society. I mean, I'm telling you that fashion overtook, dominated, was the canopy under which all good things happened in London. And then I came back to LA and mixed that with the music industry, which was just burgeoning. And, it was just, I guess, you could say the harder you work or the more chances you take, the luckier you get. Because if I had never just said, okay, my parents are going to kill me, but I'm getting on that plane and
Mm.
going to London, it would never have happened. So that probably is the recurring theme my whole life.
Yeah.
You want to tell me I can't do something? Here's my reaction. La 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 la.
Like Charlie Brown. Wah, wah, wah,
Yeah.
wah, wah,
Wah
wah.
wah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But see,
Exactly.
there's a price to be paid for that wah, 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 wah. Because that means if your mother is as controlling as you said she was, you're breaking the mold. That means you lost whatever support you had and coming back to Berkeley, correct?
Coming back to LA for
LA.
UCLA.
Yeah, yeah.
My father was even more controlling. They were really very united. It was not a happy household. And then they got a child they couldn't control. And then they got a child that had her own unique ideas that they refused to honor. And then, I had to leave. I had to make really hard choices in life. And I had to say to myself, am I prepared to lead a life I don't believe in, that I'm not interested in, that I am not? Even as a teenager, I realized I was so different from other little girls in school. I didn't talk about having a bunch of children. I didn't talk about marriage all the time. The only reason I think I was even interested in marriage was, could I design my wedding dress?
Wow.
That was the deal, right? I
Wow.
wanted to be a professional. And even at the time, until you actually got young individual designers, which you got in London at the time, there was no such thing in America. If you were an assistant designer, like, believe it or not, Bill Blass, legend in the industry.
Yes, he is.
Was an assistant designer till he was about 55 years old. And finally, when who he was working for passed away, he was a logical person to take over. But you might wind up being an assistant all your life, never even getting a chance. It wasn't, London broke that whole mold, and it became freewheeling, and it became unbelievably glamorous. And that's how the fashion industry took off, and that's how I caught the coattail of it.
Well, when you talk about catching the coattail of it, Diane, it seems like in your life you've taken advantage of opportunities, because in the beginning, apparently you and your girlfriend had a shop, and then someone that we may know as in the other half of Bono. I'm not going to give away the story. Tell the story about the pig shop.
So I met another totally dedicated fashionista at UCLA named Rosanna Norton, and together we opened up a store called I'm a Hog for You, Baby, because we researched. Remember, there was no Google at the time, and we came to the conclusion that was the first rock and roll song ever recorded. And we painted
I'm a hog for you. I'm a
hog for you, baby. And we painted a big neon green, really cute pig over the door. And it was across the street from Cantor's Delicatessen. Now, at the time, who knew about cholesterol? Cantor's was the celebrity hangout. So one day, this white Rolls Royce pulls up across the street. Out comes Sonny. He's going to get a pastrami on rye to go at Cantor's. And Cher is not eating pastrami. She walks across the street. She sees the store. She walks in. She looks around and looks at all the racks. Oh, may I say, every dress was $10. And we sewed them all ourselves. And they were very creative. They were really, you could do anything you wanted to do, which I loved. So they were all little A-line dresses, very cute, very simple, but always with a twist. She walks out and we're thinking, yeah, of course, this Cher. Cher can afford anything. And
Right.
she screams, Sonny, get in here.
What?
He comes in with the chauffeur, and they literally take every rack with every dress and throw them in the back of the Rolls Royce in the trunk.
Wow.
That was the beginning. And where the music industry goes, so goes people like Cher lead
Mhm.
you into an industry, so goes somebody like me. So what I really loved doing was decorating, re-embroidering. I
Mhm.
really loved hand painting on denim.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where my artistry led me at the time. I mean, look, there was
Yeah.
no way to make real money at it,
Yeah.
but you were part of something. You were creative. People were bouncing ideas off of you. They liked what they saw. It energized them. And that was the whole deal. Yeah,
So,
you needed that reverberation.
well, that reverberation, that door opening, following that and following your North Star, you met someone with wild hair, singing in a club. And what happened? Well, that's a great story. Share that with us.
So I had a boyfriend in college, and he, while he was still in college, became a record agent, a talent agent for RCA Records. One night he said to me, sneak out of the sorority house and meet me on the Sunset Strip, and we're going to go to the Whiskey A Go-Go, and there's going to be a new talent. So I did that, sneaking out of the sorority house, walking around fully dressed with a bathrobe over it all, as if, oh, just another evening in curfew at 9. And the Whiskey was a huge club, and it was completely dark. And there were only about 20 record agents there with their old ladies. That was the term for girlfriend.
Mhm.
And so I'm standing right by the stage, and the stage is little and it's just about a foot high. Out walks this girl, with wild red hair, jeans, a neon boa, feather boa, a bottle of Southern Comfort. The band comes straggling out. She opens up her mouth, and this wall of sound comes out. And it was breathtaking. It was startling. It was, you'd never seen a white woman like that before,
Yeah.
perform like that. And it was Janis Joplin. And
No
so
way.
yeah. And afterwards, there were not very many women in the music industry at that point. When you think about every band, and you think the Beatles, and you think the Rolling Stones, and you even think Crosby, Stills, and Nash, whatever was coming into the music industry was basically male dominated. So it was very, very unique to see a talent like this. And by the way, my boyfriend didn't like her, and did not recommend to RCA as a signer, which I thought, big mistake. So he introduced me afterwards. There was a commingling thing going on, and she said, "Hey man, like your jean jacket is really groovy." And I said, "Really, you like it?" I had hand painted it. I had jeweled it. I had slashed it and patched it. I had embroidered it. I had bleached it. I had worked on this thing for weeks. It was a work of art. And I just took it off and said, "Really? You like it? Take it. It's yours."
Wow.
And that was, if I had to sum up the music industry from the mid to late 60s going into the early 70s, I would say very accessible. You could organically just kind of flow into it. And I wound up meeting, through Janis Joplin, Gracie Slick and the Jefferson Airplane, Deep Purple, Jimi Hendrix. I made leather hand painted jeans for Rod Stewart for a birthday party. He wore them to his birthday party. I attended it. It was amazing. It was an amazing time. I was
Yeah.
not making any money. I didn't really care as long as I could pay my rent and eat.
Yeah.
But I was doing what I knew I was born to do, what I knew I was meant to do. But later, a little bit later, by the mid-70s, I realized time was moving on, and I needed to make a really big decision: get professional or not. And I decided to get serious and or at least semi-serious and get professional.
Yeah. Well, you know what? And I know that will resonate with a lot of our listeners, because if you're talking 50 plus, 55 plus, Grace Slick, she had that one song called White Rabbit. Remember that?
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh. Of course.
And then Jim Morrison had Come On Baby, Light My Fire.
Actually,
Riders on the Storm was another one. Remember that?
Rosanna started dating Jim Morrison. That was another incredible. She was his girlfriend for several years.
What?
So you can just imagine how casual the music scene was in California, how naive, how just born it was. And I was very proud to be a part of it. And youth was definitely not wasted on the young when it comes to me. It was a party. And it was a party until I said to myself, you know what? I was 26, 27, and I said, okay, time to wake up. What are we doing with the rest of our life? And that's when I bought a plane ticket and came to New York. I knew I had to be here.
Well, when you came to New York, that's almost like fulfilling a destiny you had when you were 5 years old, because you said you saw in this magazine this picture of New York City. You said, I'm going to live there, right outside, across the street from Central Park, and I'm going to see the Empire State Building. So now in your teens, you buy this ticket and you come to New York.
You know what? That was so crazy. I saw, it was 17 magazine. It was Colleen Corby, teenage model, weekend in New York. And she was wearing a fur coat, a mink coat. There was the Empire State Building behind her. And it was like, oh, Fifth Avenue. And oh my gosh, it's so glamorous. I remember saying to my mother, I'm going to be there one day. And coincidentally, Dale, I had to find an apartment quickly because the townhouse I lived in was sold. And the only place I had time in between TV shows to find and move into was actually on 32nd but on 5th, catty corner to the Empire State Building, which was on the other corner. And after I moved in, and I wrote my first book, Good Genes, it occurred to me that I had fulfilled my destiny almost literally.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is amazing. That's quite a feeling.
It is quite a feeling. And I think that, but when you got there, the idea that you didn't know anyone, you had to get a job that had nothing to do with your destiny, but yet you did what you had to do to survive. So how did you survive in nurturing your dream to become a fashion designer?
Well, nobody would hire me. I knew I was talented, but I had no connections, and I had never gone to FIT, Fashion Institute of Technology. So I didn't even have a diploma to hold up for anyone. I knocked on every door. It was really discouraging. And I wound up thinking, you know what? I'm going to be sitting out on the street with a tin cup if I don't do something. So I used my looks. I got a job, and the night job was a waitress at Max's Kansas City. And then I met, because it was the second home to Andy Warhol, I met Andy Warhol and the whole factory crew. And it was also a magnet for, again, the New York movie industry, like the New York Dolls. And in the daytime, I applied for a job at Bloomingdale's, and I thought, oh yeah, I'll be a sales girl. Well, they'll see me as a little fashion coordinator, and I'll be in some great department I really love. No. They had an opening in the old ladies girdle department and bullet bra department. And I will tell you what, and I'm sure there are other artists who would say the same thing, where you had a low point in
Yeah.
your life where you're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, this is like being an actor waiting for the big break. That's what it felt like to me. I felt like, no, I'm never going to get out of here. And I'm thinking to myself years later, my timing was terrible because about 3 years later, Madonna started walking around in the East Village in girdles on the outside and bullet bras and made it oh so fashionable. But when I was working in that department, that had not occurred yet. So yeah, that was a low point for me for sure.
But you know what? That's a low point for you. But you know, even working in the store, you were still nurturing your dream. And that was able, you finally, again, taking advantage of an opportunity. Someone saw you in the store. I think she was a buyer. And that kind of opened up another door for you. Is that right?
Well, I used to read Women's Wear Daily. I wanted to feel like I was part of the industry, even though I was barely hanging on at the periphery. So I always read WWD cover to cover. And I
Wow.
saw somebody walking across the floor of Bloomingdale. She didn't look very happy. And I recognized her from WWD as a fashion coordinator for Bloomingdale's. She wanted the whole department changed. It wasn't doing well. Of course it wasn't. It was a bunch of ugly girdles. And I raised my hand and said, I'll help you. I'll help you change all the displays. And while I did, I took advantage of that time. I thought, what do I have to lose? So I said, oh, and by the way, I'm a designer and I have a collection and I'd love to show it to you. Little did she know it was 7 styles.
No
I had
way.
sewn it all on my little home singer sewing machine. And she like was, no, not another one. Okay. Yeah. 3 weeks from Wednesday, I'll give you 15 minutes. And that 15 minutes changed my life.
Wow.
I was discovered. It was amazing.
Well, you know, we're going to talk about how that changed your life in just a minute, but I want to remind our audience that we're having the pleasure of speaking with my co-host, as Diane Gilman. You'll recognize her from her time on QVC HSN, 28 years, where she sold hundreds of millions of dollars worth of product and was the #1 telefashion host on TV. An amazing story. I love having you as my co-host, Diane. And so when you say it changed your life, they ordered $100,000 of your designs based on 7 dresses at Bloomingdale's. Is that right?
Yeah, 7 little, like one little bomber jacket, one little pair of short shorts. You know, it was crazy. I don't even think it was that coherent of a collection, but it was only 7 pieces. And when they ordered that, that would have been the equivalent today of about $1 million order.
Wow.
I was living, obviously, hand to mouth. I would do my waitress job. I would come home and sew for a couple of hours. I would do my Bloomingdale's job in the daytime, come and go out and buy fabric in between. I mean, it was a true artistic endeavor. And I burst out in tears. I didn't have the money to buy that much fabric. I didn't have the money to pay that much labor or do the shipping. And Bloomingdale's said, we believe in young talent. We'll buy the fabric for you. We'll pay for the labor. We're going to give you for free 2 weeks worth of double trunk, full page, centerfold, New York Times, Sunday ads. And we're going to give you all the windows of Bloomingdale's.
Wow.
And I was absolutely floored and thrilled and scared. And could I really do it? And was it going to sell? But it was truly like being discovered. I always thought it was like that movie 42nd Street where Ruby Keeler has to go on as the understudy and she's only got 2 hours to rehearse, but she doesn't. And so that was me. And that started my professional career. And I quit selling girdles and bullet bras and never looked back.
Well, you know what amazes me for that story is that, again, Diane Gilman taking advantage of opportunities as they presented themselves, but also, madam, having the hubris to say, hey, look, this is great. I can't deliver this. So you were honest. And that too is part of the transformation of women and men as we transition into age, is to understand what we can't do and what we cannot do. And you were honest. And that was pivotal to your success. Yes?
I think I was just very transparent. But, that's interesting you say that. I never really thought about it that way. But I think every step of the way, like when I finally got to do what I should have been doing, which was designing and came to invent and design a jean for a middle-aged women's body, I got plenty of blowback. Even my business partner said, and I quote, and I'll never forget this, who wants to see a fat old chick in a pair of tight-fitting jeans? And I thought, I do. I want to see millions of women in them. And you know what? That's how I have spent a lifetime listening to my inner voice and my heart and my gut and taking away all extraneous sound. I've spent a lifetime seeking the real deal, the truth.
Yeah.
My own truth.
Well, you know what? Just as a personal note, Guinevere, my wife, she loves your fashion line. And I must say that walking away from me, she looks wonderful in a pair of your DG2 denim jeans for women. Because what I like is that you say that you design these jeans for real women with real bodies.
Yeah.
And they're attainable. So what does that mean, designing real jeans for real women with real bodies?
Well, I went to a fashion show recently. I'm not going to mention the name of the designer, but everybody knows a designer. And I'm sitting there as a 77-year-old woman who's in fairly good shape for my age. And there was not one thing I could wear. Oh, there was a fur coat I could wear. That was it. Everything else was for a perfect body, a slim torso, a tiny waist, long legs. And so I came to the age 58, 59. I couldn't wear anything I wanted to wear anymore. And the one thing I really wanted to wear at the time was a great pair of jeans. That was a time when Britney Spears was wearing all the low slung jeans and everybody wanted to be in jeans, and Dolce & Gabbana and Balmain were doing jeans for $15,000 a jean. I mean, it was denim mania. So I went to every store. I went to every department. Nothing even came close to fitting. I gained a lot of weight in middle age. So be it. And I finally gave up, took my measurements, which were way out of industry standard, way. And, skinny legs, we seem to age skinny and the fat goes up to our waist and our torso and our tummy. Bad news, good news. If you like skinny legs, I do. And I made a jean, and wearing that jean, what it did for me socially, what it did for my self-esteem and confidence changed my whole viewpoint of aging. And then I thought, wait a minute, if I love wearing this so much, wouldn't millions of women? I mean, we all basically age the same. It's hormones, not choice. So I thought you could have a much softer landing aging and going 55, 60, 65, 70 beyond. If you were looking a lot more like you again, like the you knew in your youth, could be connected. And that was the birth of DG2 jeans. And to date in America alone, we've sold almost 21 million of them in 16 years of existence as a company. And my viewers crowned me the queen of jeans. And it was pretty amazing that that all happened when I was 59 and 60. That's when my meteoric rise in an industry that was so age-phobic happened. And so I kind of see myself as Benjamin Buttons of the fashion world, right? I kind of started old and sort of went backwards, but you know what?
Yeah.
It is so sweet when you hit that sweet spot, when you hit that spot where you devised something, invented something, dreamt something, thought up something, carry it through, and it benefits millions of people around you. And it became a very emotional product and sell, because for so many women, they didn't even know that it could be. And suddenly they had their youth back again. They had that connection. So it became a sisterhood. My fan base of about 650,000 women on tele-retail became my fan base and my sisterhood. And then when I got cancer, they were my cheerleading squad, and they really helped me through. It's been quite an amazing journey, but definitely unique for the fashion industry, for sure.
And I think for our viewers, as we come to our close, you're going to continue hearing these kind of stories about this journey, about Diane Gilman pursuing her North Star from day one to becoming what she ended up becoming, which is just an amazing story. And Diane, as we close, I think there's one thing I wanted to say to you. Absolutely, you embrace aging. You look absolutely marvelous. And I think that is so good that you're still stylish, that you're still attractive, and that you're not trying to pretend you're 50, but you're living your age. And I think that's very inspirational for women and men.
I wanted to be authentic. And that is why I made the decision when I came through breast cancer that I was not going to dye my hair anymore. I was going to rebrand myself as a silver-haired, if you will, influencer. But I decided that the biggest mistake we all make is trying to go back and pretend we're something we're not. And that in itself is ageism. You're committing ageism against yourself if you don't celebrate where you're at. So you know what? I say this to our audience. It's a little lonely here. I need some people to join me. I mean, half the time I go to an event, like I went to this New York Fashion Week fashion show, big fashion show. I was the only white-haired woman there.
Oh, no.
Everybody, but you know what? Everybody was looking at me like, who is that? Shouldn't I know her? People want to take pictures. Yeah, I love being unique, but people, I need my own group surrounding me. So that's a lot of what this podcast is about. How we celebrate our age, how we're honest about it, how we truly come to believe these could be the best years of your life. But you got to work at it. And we're here, Dale and I, to give you information, inspiration, and innovation how to get there.
That is just so good, Diane. Absolutely a wonderful interview. I mean, those are great words we're going to leave people with, because it doesn't get any better than that. That does not get any better than that. So thank you so much to our audience. Thank you for spending a few moments this morning with Diane Gilman and I as part of Aging with Grace 55 Plus. Diane Gilman, I'm your co-host, Dale Josey. And I certainly hope that you will join me and my co-host, Diane Gilman, again next Saturday, because we got some great shows coming up on this YouTube channel. Please click that you like it, and please support us, because as Diane said, we need you. Come on in, because I too am aging. But I turned off that voice so I can get back here and sound more like professional and young. Oh, yes, Benjamin Button is here also. But Diane, this has been absolutely wonderful. You're delightful. And folks, if you have not done so yet, Diane's got a great book. It's called Too Young to Be Old, How to Stay Vibrant, Visible, and Forever in Blue Jeans. You can buy it at Amazon. This too can be your story, because that's what this podcast, this YouTube channel is all about, being authentic and embracing as we grow older together. Till next week, thank you so much, Diane. I hope you have a great day in New York. Goodbye.
Uh-oh. Is that correct?
She did it.
I'm not sure. How about just bye?
Bye.
Bye. See you next week.
See you next week. Bye-bye.